Hello and welcome to Kitchen Counter Crafts. If you like this video, would you please like, comment, share, and subscribe. So today I wanted to do another video on my beginner series, and I have several different videos that I thought might be helpful for people who are just starting out in the fountain pen hobby. One is on picking the right fountain pen ink for beginners. Another one is trying to find a pen that is lesser on the cost scale but delivers on performance. So please be sure to check out those videos. I also have one on how to just pick up a pen and write with it without messing up the nib or being afraid of the pen itself. Those are actually questions that I've had at the OKC Pen Club that I lead here in Oklahoma City. And so because the questions are very common, I wanted to just start kind of addressing those types of things. So stay tuned because I'm going to have another video as well on the fountain pen anatomy, because it's really helpful, especially when people start just throwing some terminology around, especially at meetings or, you know, if you're watching videos and et cetera, et cetera. So at our fountain pen club, nibs are kind of usually the hot topic. We always are comparing nibs for some reason. We're talking about, you know, broad and flex and gold and Yovo versus, you know, Schmidt or whatever. I mean, not Schmidt nibs, Bach nibs. So you're just kind of always talking about all these nibs, and people are kind of get a little bit confused. So let's tackle a little bit. Now, we're not going to get that far into it, but just kind of the basics of nibs. So beginner nibs is the title, I guess, for today. And so I'm going to I have a row of pens that are inked, and I thought this might give you a pretty good example of what I mean by different pen sizes. So this is my Pilot Custom 74. And I'm just going to start zooming in here. And this pen, I love. It's always inked. It's on my desk, and it has this gorgeous scroll work on the nib. Isn't that pretty? Well, don't want to get too far into that, but it's just beautiful. The thing on the back with the lines is called a feed, but again, we're not here to talk about the anatomy, just talking about a pen. So most of the pen nibs you're going to see have this little tip on the tip top of the nib, and it's a rounded ball, and so that's really what helps that pen to glide over the surface of the paper. This is a Rhodia dot pad. It's fairly inexpensive, but it does a really nice job of not letting the ink kind of seep through. And so we're going to just use this to check out the different pens and nib sizes. So this is a Pilot Custom 74, and this is a fine, and usually you'll see it kind of put the nib size put in brackets like that. And so that's just a fancy way of saying what nib size it is. And then here's just a little bit of how that writes. And then another thing you will see people doing is to go like that, and that just tells you like how wet the pen writes and how wet the ink might be. So like that's also like dry time. It'll go through, like if you wrote with it and then it's smeared, that's kind of what they're showing. I also like it because it shows the ink color really well. The next pen I have here is the Diplomat Traveler, and this is also a fine nib. So let me just write down what this is. Another pen that I love and usually stays inked on my desk as well. And the reason why I wanted to show you that is because the Diplomat is a European pen, so made in Germany, and usually European fountain pens the nib sizes are going to be larger than the Japanese. So a fine is always a fine. So it's not apples to apples. If you're getting a Japanese pen like a Sailor versus a Pilot, which is also Japanese, your fine is most likely going to be a fine, but not necessarily in European to Japanese. The nib sizes just seem to vary. This is a TWSBI Diamond 580, and this one is a medium. And that's not TWISBI, but TWSBI. I always have to think about the name. So this is Diamond 580, and this is an AL because it has like aluminum on like here and in the body as well. This is a demonstrator pen, which I love because you can see the ink. You can see how much you have left. Oops, did not tell you what nib size that was. All right, this is a medium nib. So you're going to see that you can't really tell like with the naked eye if that's a medium or not, but I really can't. Some people can. Like my husband, he can tell you exactly what it is. I just have a harder time with that. The TWSBI pen is a fairly good way to see what's a fine, what's a medium, in my opinion. They seem to be very consistent throughout. Also, by the way, sometimes you won't even have consistency in the brand itself. Now, Pilots are known for consistency, so and that's because they also make their own nib. They make the pen, they make the nib, and they make the different parts to it. This beauty here is a peniter. Just adore these pens. They're just, I mean, talk about how beautiful that is. So that is a black, lovely nib. Oh, just so pretty. All right, this is, sorry, I haven't written this one for a couple days. Actually, almost a week. This is a peniter Avatar UR, and this is an EF. Now, this is a European pen. Peniters are made in Italy. So you should expect that this should be not as fine as the EF should write like a fine for Japanese. And you can kind of tell that it is writing a little bit like the Pilot. Now, the Pilot and the Diplomat are fairly close together, I think. All right. We're going to continue on. This is also a peniter. I liked it so much. I have another one. Love these pens. In case you missed it the first time when I said that I love these pens. I have videos on these too, by the way, if you'd like to kind of check them out. All right, so the reason why I did that is so that you can see that even within the same kind of family, if you will, you can have a little bit of a comparison between the fine and the extra fine. Can't really tell the difference, not so much on these two. And that's honestly one of the reasons I like that brand as well. So I have one more pen to show you, and that's because the nib on this one is so different. And so this is the Pilot capless. This is not a vanishing point. It looks like a vanishing point. I have a video on this as well. And the cool thing is you just push the button and it's a retractable nib. So it is actually a full-size nib hidden underneath. I mean, full-size, tiny, really tiny. But it is a nib that you can actually see. And this one is also a fine. So I should have probably done it up there. Let's see, I can do it, fit it in there. Oh, it barely has any ink. Pilot capless. I'm kind of pushing it here on the ink because I needed to re-ink this guy, but I thought, you know what? I'm doing a video. Let's go for it. This one seems to be really super fine for me, but also it depends, not in case that wasn't enough for you, that there's variation in the nibs. It will also, the ink will cause variation in the writing as well. So if you have a dry ink versus a wet ink, so like that is more of a wet ink, that's a dry ink, that's a dry ink. So you can kind of see which inks are wet, which inks are dry. And so you can see even with the fines, those kind of go a long ways. This one, not so much. All right, so not here to talk about inks either. See, this is how you can get totally sidelined and totally sidetracked. All right, so I have some pens here so that you can see line variation, because sometimes that's helpful to kind of check it out. So this is a Pigma Micron, which is 0.2 in the line. So this is a 0.2 mm. So kind of very, very like extra fine, I would say. This is a 0.25. Okay, so that's still like an extra fine, maybe towards a fine. This is a 0.38 line. So like a 0.4, and that's going more towards a fine. And then this is a just like a mechanical pencil, that's a 0.7, so that you can see the differences here. So I don't know if that helps you at all, but sometimes that can be really helpful. In another video, I mentioned that my husband just wrote with mechanical pencils. He wrote with 0.5s, and so I actually steered him towards the fine, which is more towards the 0.38, and actually he has an extra fine as well. He absolutely hated extra fine because he thought they were very scratchy and very thin, and then he went more towards the fine, which is like a point, kind of about a 0.3, like 0.4-ish or a little bit lesser. So mediums are getting into a 0.5, and then so that's kind of a gauge for you to have. Now one more thing, you have specialty nibs as well. So really two more things. Here's a TWSBI Eco with a stub nib, so I'm going to show you that as well. So this is a TWSBI Eco stub. I don't remember, I think it's a 1.1 stub, and oh, I should have put it there. All right, so one of the things you're going to notice, I love the stub nib. So this is going to actually allow you to have line variation in your handwriting. These tend to write extremely wet. It's kind of like a broad nib, because you can actually see it's a pretty broad nib, especially when compared to a fine. The downstroke is going to be very thick. The side stroke is going to be very skinny, very thin, almost like this Pineider fine. And then you can see line variation of thick and thin as you go up and down in loops. And if I do almost like a figure 8 or a S, you can also see that you get a lovely line variation there as well. So I love writing with these because they are just super fun, and that is not that expensive for the TWSBI Eco. Now this is by far the most expensive pen that I own, and this is because it is a gold nib, and so you are going to of course pay more for a gold nib. But this is also a specialty gold nib, and you can tell by the way that it's etched on the sides. It's got kind of the cutouts there. It's also curved in. It's just a gorgeous nib and a gorgeous pen. And this is my Pilot Custom 843. So this is just a lovely pen. Lovely. Let me see if I can find what it says there on the cap. There we go. So it has it around the cap as well. So not Custom Heritage, I always call it that. Pilot Custom 843, and it has a Falcon nib, which is I think an 18 karat. It should say it on there. I can't see, my eyes are kind of shot. Oh gosh, my eyes are shot. There you go. So were yours. You can't even see. It was too blurry. I apologize. I'm so glad I caught it before it's too late, before I started writing all these wonderful variations in lines. Okay, and this pen is going to give you a, whoa, see how much ink it drops? It's going to give you even more line variation, and it is not a flex pen, but it is going to give you a little bit of a flex or a like a bounce feel when you write with it. So it is just a it also has this backfill system, which you don't need to know right now about that, but it is a amazing pen to write with, and you can have all kinds of specialty nibs. There's broad, there's double broad. That's not a specialty nib, that's just regular. There's the specialty nibs are like the Falcon nib, the FA, music nibs, which I love, and they put down so much ink. They're called gushers, and I don't know, there's just tons of nibs. If you are interested in nibs, check out Pilot Custom Heritage 912. So CH912 and Pilot Custom Heritage nibs, you can pretty much pick from like, I don't know, 15 different nib types. That might be too little of an amount. So you can kind of check those out and see what those look like. And for now, I hope that this was helpful to you, and just kind of a crash course on nibs. I would say, you know, just depending on what you want to do, if you don't mind writing with a pen that is thicker, go for a medium, and then you can dial it back if you think it's too thick, or dial it forward into a broad if you think that was too thin. Or if you kind of like writing with like gel pens, I would say go for a fine, and then if that's too fine, you can go towards a medium. One of the most fun parts of this hobby is trying to figure out which nibs you like and how well they show off your ink color. And just writing with nibs and pens, it's just, I don't know, so much fun. And I don't seem to get tired of it at all, and I don't get tired of talking about them at all. And it's just, it's a part of your pen's personality. And so anyway, hope that intrigued you. If you have some information that I didn't share, would you please share it and tell me about your first pen? What size nib did you get? What would you recommend for people to get if you are a fountain pen hobbyist? And if you're just starting out, tell me which nib kind of intrigues you most, or which one you hate. So I'd love to hear all about that. And until next time, bye.